Hello and welcome to this first look exploring session looking at More Dissemblers Besides Women by Thomas Middleton. Precise dating is a little fiddly. Sometime in the early 1620s is some people's bets. Some people like to put it earlier, but there are reasons why a later date is more probable. We certainly know it definitely existed and was being revived for performance in 1624, or at least in the new style of 1624. Technically it was performed in January, so it was still 1623. Don't worry about that. This is all propaganda. However, we're going to be working through this play over 3 sessions to find out how it functions for us today, as well as how it might have functioned for people back then. Reading today, Lactantio is
Aaron from the Pacific Northwest of the United States.
Reading Song, Servant, Governor, and Celia is...
Hi, I'm Lynn, also in the Northwestern United States.
Reading Page and Andrugio is...
Rachel in Canada.
Reading Cardinal and Father is...
Alan in Suffolk in the UK.
Reading First Lord, Third Lord, Cupid and Dondolo is...
Honor here in London.
Reading Aurelia is...
Sarah in The Hague.
And reading Second Lord and Duchess is...
Kyle in Tucson.
And I'm your host, Robert Crighton. I'll be reading stage directions and generally moving forwards. Do check out any content warnings in the show description. I don't think for this first session that there's anything too problematic, but I'm fairly certain that there may be some stuff later on in the play, which may be something to be wary of. But at this time, it's a comedy, and hopefully everything's going to be fine. Act 1, Scene 1. We have no recorded prologue for this. We have a Lactantio is about, and we also have music and a song from Off, and the song will be read, not necessarily performed in a singy way. Now.
To be chaste is women's glory, 'tis her fame and honor's story. Here sits she in funeral weeds, only bright in virtuous deeds. Come and read her life and praise, that singing weeps and sighing plays.
Enter Aurelia and servant.
Welcome, soul's music. I have been listening here to melancholy strains from the Duchess lodgings, that strange great widow that has vowed so stiffly never to know love's heat in a second husband. And she has kept the fort most valiantly to the wonder of her sex this 7 years' day. And that's no sorry trial. A month's constancy is held a virtue in a city widow. And are they excelled by so much more to court? My faith, a rare example for our wives. Heaven's blessing of her heart for it, poor soul. She need have somewhat to comfort her. What wouldst thou do? Faith, now, if I were dead, suppose I were thy husband, as shortly I will be, and that's as good. Speak freely, and thou lovest me.
Alas, sir, I should not have the leisure to make vows, for dying presently I should be dead before you were laid out.
Now fie upon thee for a hasty dyer. Wouldst thou not see me buried?
Talk not on, sir. These many years, unless you take delight to see me swoon or make a ghost of me.
Alas, poor soul, I'll kiss thee into colour. Canst thou paint pale so quickly? I perceive then thou'dst go beyond the Duchess and her vow. Thou'dst die indeed. What's he?
Be settled, sir. Spend neither doubt nor fear upon that fellow. Health cannot be more trusty to man's life than he to my necessities in love.
I take him of thy word and praise his face, though he looks scurvily. I will think hereafter that honesty may walk with fire in his nose, as well as brave desert in broken clothes. But for thy further safety, I've provided a shape that at first sight will start thy modesty and make thee blush perhaps, but 'twill away after a qualm or two. Virginity has been put often to those shifts before thee upon extremities. A little boldness cannot be called immodesty, especially when there's no means without it for our safeties. Thou knowest my uncle, the Lord Cardinal, wears so severe an eye, so strict and holy, it not endures the sight of womankind about his lodgings. Hardly a matron of 80 admitted, though she be worn to gums, she comes not there to mumble matins. All his admiration is placed upon the Duchess. He likes her because she keeps her vow, and likes not any. So does he love that man above his book that loves no woman. For my fortune's sake then, for I am like to be his only heir, I must dissemble and appear as fair to his opinion as the brow of piety, as void of all impureness as an altar. Thine ear, that, and we are safe.
You make me blush, sir.
'Tis but a star shot from a beauteous cheek. It blazes beauty's bounty and hurts nothing.
The power of love commands me.
I shall wither in comforts till I see thee.
And they exit. A scene full of promise and questions and slightly elliptical in terms of what's actually going on, but setting up a cardinal who's your uncle. I mean, who wouldn't want to have a cardinal as an uncle? And this offstage Duchess who has her own offstage chorus, who wouldn't? Especially if you're a Duchess, you can afford those things. I mean, just playing on the stereo,
8 tracks.
Yeah, sad music. Lynn.
Yeah, so we did a Middleton last week. I mean, I assume these are going to come out more or less in order, although
I think it's fair to say we did a Middleton last week. That's okay. Cool.
And you mentioned, Rob, that Middleton, particularly late Middleton, can be quite hard to parse, just the language, and I definitely found that here. It's just a tough way to start a play, because it takes your audience a little time to get tuned in, even when the language isn't difficult. So this is a tough one because it took me a while to figure out what was going on. There's a song about chastity and women, but the first woman who shows up isn't the woman that song is about, evidently. Lactantio and Aurelia are going to have an affair, or are having an affair.
There's definitely some flirty vibes going on. It's like, you shall be my husband, won't you? And it's like, and it's well, maybe. So there's a little play on that.
So that's kind of what threw me. I expected the first woman we see to be the woman that song was about, and the one that Lactantio was talking about, like, that she was widowed 7 years ago and hasn't really. She's barely spoken to a man, but that's not Aurelia. So,
Sarah,
to make that clear.
Yeah, Sarah.
I mean, we're reading this cold, so it's hard, like, to get the tone, like when you're reading cold, when there's no kind of useful exposition to tell you how to play it. I mean, obviously that wouldn't be a problem in an actual production, because your actors would have read the script beforehand and they know how to play it. And so I think perhaps the tone would give the audience a clearer sense of what was going on from the get-go. What really did confuse me, though, was when Lactantio said, "What's he?" Because I'm like, what? Has someone come on stage? What's that? What does that "what's he" refer to? And then Aurelia talks about this person, and I'm not sure what that was about.
He has the servant with her.
Yeah.
Oh, it's the servant.
Yeah.
Right.
There's some lines in that.
Yes, it does. Yeah.
So he's just lurking in the background while they're flirting.
No attention to that man behind the curtain.
Yeah, and you get this in in costume dramas all the time. If not before the servants. Oh no, it's okay. He's fine. He's fine. He knows all that stuff.
And he's going to be their go-between, evidently. Yeah.
Yeah, and we get this thine ear, and he obviously whispers to her at that point, and it's like, oh, you make me blush, sir. It's what did he say? What did he say? I like the tone. I say I quite like the just this idea of my uncle the Cardinal. I mean, it just feels like Aunt Augusta is standing by. I mean, we've got this in new comedy all the way of just there is the barrier to love, which is an older figure who will get in the way of love in some fashion, and I feel that the Lord Cardinal might be fulfilling that plot function, but I don't know yet because we haven't read more. Let us read more. Let us find out more. We have had our appetites whetted. Act 1, Scene 2. Enter Lord Cardinal in his closet, and 2 or 3 lords.
Lords, I have work for you. When you have hours free from the care of state, bestow your eyes on those abstracts, the Duchess virtues, my studies ornaments. I make her constancy the holy mistress of my contemplation. Whole volumes have I writ in zealous praise of her eternal vow. I have no power to suffer virtue to go thinly clad. I that ever been in youth old man to pleasures and to women, and could never love but pity 'em, and all their momentary frantic follies. Here I stand up in admiration, and bow to the chaste health of our great Duchess, kissing her constant name. O my fair lords, when we find grace confirmed, especially in a creature so doubtful as a woman, we're spirit ravished. Men of our probation feel the sphere's music playing in their souls so long unto the eternizing of her sex. She's kept her vow so strictly and as chaste as everlasting life is kept for virtue. Even from the sight of men, to make her oath as uncorrupt as the honour of a virgin, that must be strict in thought, or else that title, like one of frailty's ruins, shrinks to dust. No longer she's a virgin, and she's just.
Chaste sir, the truth and justice of her vow to her deceased lords, able to make poor man's treasury of praises. But methinks that she that has no temptation set before her, her virtue has no conquest. Then would her constancy shine in the brightest goodness of her glory, if she would give admittance, see and be seen, and yet resist and conquer. There were argument for angels could outreach the life of praise, set in mortality's shortness. I speak this not for religion, but for love of her, whom I wish less religious and more loving. But I fear she's too constant, that's her fault. But 'tis so rare, few of her sex are took with, that makes some amends.
You have put my zeal into a way, my lord. Shall not be at peace till I make perfect. I'll make her victory harder. 'Tis my crown, when I bring grace to greatest perfection. And I dare trust that daughter with the world. None but her vow and she, I know she wears a constancy, will not deceive my praises. A faith so noble, she that once knows heaven need put in no security for her truth. I dare believe her face, use all the art, temptation, witcheries, sleights and subtleties, you temple lords and all your means can practice.
My lord, not with any we.
Her resolute goodness shall as a rock stand firm and send the sin that beat against it into the bosom of the owners, weeping.
We with her virtue so.
Oh, give me pardon. I've lost myself in her. Upon my friends, your charitable censures I beseech. So dear her white fame is to my soul's love. 'Tis an affliction, but to hear it questioned, she's my religious triumph. If you desire a belief rightly to her, think she can never waver. Then you're sure she has a fixed heart. It cannot err. He kills my hopes of women, but doubts her.
No more, my lord, 'tis fixed.
Believe my judgment. I never praise in vain, nor ever spent opinion idly, or lost hopes of any where I once placed it. Welcome as my joy is.
We are the same most firmly.
Good opinion in others rewards you and all your actions. Who's near us?
Enter a servant. Who's muted, but it's probably fine.
My lord,
Call on nephew. There's a work that for blood's sake I labour to make perfect, and it comes in on with joy. He's pretty used to speak of years, yet I dare venture him to old men's goodness and gravities, for his strict manners, and win glory by him, and for the chasteness of his countenance, which is a rare grace in the spring of man. He does excel the youth of all our time, which gift of his more than affinity draws my affection in great plenty to him. Company of a woman is as fearful to him as death to guilty men. I've seen him blush when but a maid was named. I'm proud of him. Heaven be not angry for it. He's near of kin in disposition to me. I shall do much for him in lifetime, but in death I shall do all. There he will find my love. He's yet too young in years to rise in state, but his good parts will bring him in the sooner. Here he comes.
Indeed, enter Lactantio with a book.
What, at thy meditation? Half in heaven?
The better half, my lord. My mind's still there. And when the heart's above, the body walks here but like an idle serving man below, gaping and waiting for his master's coming.
What man in age could bring forth graver thoughts?
He that lives 80 years is but like one that stays here for a friend. When death comes, then away he goes and is never seen again. I wonder at the young men of our days, that they can dote on pleasure, what 'tis they give that title to, unless in mockage. There's nothing I can find upon the earth worthy the name of pleasure, unless it be to laugh at folly, which indeed good charity should rather pity. But of all the frenzies that follow flesh and blood, O reverend uncle, the most ridiculous is to fawn on women. There's no excuse for that. 'Tis such a madness. There's no cure set down for it, no physician ever spent hour about it, for they guessed 'twas all in vain when they first loved themselves, and never since durst practice, cry hew me. That's all the help they have for it. I had rather meet a witch far north than a fine fool in love. The sight would less afflict me, but for modesty, and your grave presence that learns men respect, I should fall foul in words upon fond man that can forget his excellence and honor, his serious meditations being the end of his creation, to learn well to die and live a prisoner to a woman's eye. Can there be greater thraldom, greater folly?
In making him my heir, I make good works, and they give wealth a blessing. Where, on the contrary, what curses does he heap upon his soul? Leaves his riches to a riotous young man, to be consumed on surfeits, pride, and harlots. Peace be upon that spirit, whose life provides quiet rest for mine.
And having finished that aside, enter Page with a letter.
How now, the news?
A letter, sir, brought by a gentleman that lately came from Rome.
That's she. She's come. I fear not to admit her in his presence. There is the like already. I'm writ chaste in my grave uncle's thoughts, and honest meanings think all men's like their own. Thou lookest so pale. What ails thou, hero late?
I doubt I have cause, sir.
Why, what's the news?
I fear, sir, I'm with child.
With child? Peace, peace, speak low.
'Twill prove, I fear so.
Beshrew my heart for that. Desire the gentleman to walk a turn or two.
What gentleman?
One lately come from Rome, my lord, in credit with Lord Vincentio, so the letter speaks him.
Admit him, my kind boy. Precious servant ever man was blessed with. He's so meek, so good and gentle. 'Twas the best alms deed the day you did to keep him. I've oft took him, weeping alone, poor boy, at the remembrance of his lost friends, which, as he says, the sea swallowed with all their sustenance.
'Tis a truth, sir, has cost the poor boy many a feeling tear, and me too, and me some too, for company. In such pity I always spend my part. Here comes the gentleman.
Enter Aurelia like a gentleman.
Welcome to Milan, sir. How's the health of Lord Vincentio?
May it please your grace, I left it well and happy, and I hope the same. Blessed fortune keeps it.
I hear you're near him.
One of his chamber, my lord.
I'd near wish one of her condition nearer than to be one of mine.
Your news is pleasing. Whilst you remain in Milan, I request you to know the welcome of no house but ours.
Thanks to your grace.
I'll leave you to confer. I'll to the Duchess and labour her perfection.
Exit Cardinal.
Then thus begins our conference. I arrest thee in Cupid's name. Deliver up your weapon. It is not for your wearing, Venus knows it. Here's a fit thing indeed. Nay, hangers and all, away with 'em, out upon 'em, things of trouble, and out of use with you. Now you're my prisoner, until you swear you love me, all and only you part not from mine arms.
I swear it willingly.
And that you do renounce the general's love that heretofore laid claim to you?
My heart bids me, you need not teach me, that my eye ne'er knew a perfect choice till it stood blessed with you. Is yet a rival whom you little dream of. Tax me with him, and I'll swear too, I hate him. I'll thrust them both together in one oath, and send them to some pair of waiting women to solder up their credits.
Prithee, what's he? Another yet for laughter's sake. Discover him.
A governor of the fort.
That old dried neat's tongue?
A gentleman after my father's relish.
And enter the father, a totally different person, and governor.
By your kind favours, gentlemen?
Oh, my father, we are both betrayed.
Peace, you may prove too fearful. To whom your business, sir?
To the Lord Cardinal, if it please yourself, or that young gentleman, to grace we with admittance.
I will see, sir. The gentleman's a stranger, new come o'er, he understands you not. Loftro veen tantum bro hof tufti, locumber sha.
Quis quimquen sad padlaman fool urchin old estrata.
Ay, that be the language we can speak it too. Strumpeticin, bold harlotum, quianissima, or Mongaria. Shame to thy sex and sorrow to thy father. Is this a shape for reputation and modesty to mark in? Too cunning for credulous goodness. Did not a reverend respect and honour that's due unto the sanctimonious peace of this Lord's house restrain my voice in anger and teach it soft humility? I would lift both your disgraces to the height of grief that you have raised in me, but to shame you, I will not cast a blemish upon virtue. Call that your happiness, and the dearest too. Such a bold attempt could ever boast of. We'll see if such strong thought can hold you now. Take us, sir, to you.
How have I deserved the strangeness of this hour?
Talk not so tamely, for you, sir, thank the reverence of this place, or of your hypocrisy had put you out of grace. I had it, faith, if ever I can fit you. Expect to hear from me.
And exeunt everyone apart from Lactantio.
I thank you, sir. The cough of the lungs requite you. I could curse him into diseases by whole dozens now, but one's enough to beggar him, if he light upon a wise physician. 'Tis a labour to keep those little wits I have about me. Still, did I dream that villain would betray her? I'll never trust slave with a parboiled nose again. I must devise some trick to excuse her absence now to my uncle, too. There is no mischief, but brings one villain or other still even closer at heels on't. I'm pained at heart. ever there were hope of me to die for love, 'tis now. I never felt such gripings, if I can scape this climacterical year. Women ne'er trust me, though you hear me swear. Kept with him in the fort, why there's no hope of ever meeting now. My way's not thither. Love bless us with some means to get together, and I'll pay all the old reckonings.
And exit Lactantio, end of scene. There's a lot to unpack going on here. So let's do this systematically. And this is the kind of scene that makes a lot more sense when you see it, because you're seeing people, and whereas here we're seeing just sort of speech prefixes, and it can get very, very confusing. So let's just start with Aurelia turning up in disguise, and that would have all been fine if her father hadn't turned up. I just went immediately. Early modern disguise collapses. I like it when early modern disguises collapse. I always find it deeply amusing. It's like, aha, I put on glasses, no one can recognize me, and someone just comes in and goes, hang on a minute, what's going on here? This is complicated by the fact that Lactantio, there's a page in the household who is clearly not a page, who Lactantio seems to know quite well. And the Cardinal gets, what a pretty servant. Kate, Bob, whatever we want to call the page. Yeah, there's all that going on at the same time without really properly introducing it. It's like the page is just there, and it's like and then suddenly just turns around, I'm pregnant, It's just like, what? Boom. Hang on, where did that come from? Boom. Oh wow, this play isn't hanging about, and I kind of like that. I'm also very confused. Sarah, you were waving earlier, but I think you were going to talk about the page.
I was. I just think as well, like, not only is this playing with the convention of disguises by the fact that the father sees straight through her disguise as soon as he walks in the door, and I loved all that bit where they were talking nonsense language, pretending that she didn't speak English. But also, there's, in my mind's eye, there's this thing where the page comes in to introduce a gentleman, and in the meantime says, "Oh, by the way, you got me pregnant. You promised to marry me." And then the page introduces this gentleman who is also a woman in disguise, who he has also promised to marry. And you can imagine there's a moment where they just look at each other before the page goes off, and it's like, wait, what? You could just really make the most of that. There's just a lot of comedy in this. That is actually funny. And I just wanted to say as well about the fact that I just love the fact that this Cardinal is just pestering this Duchess. You can imagine she's just like, oh, for crying out loud, enough with the sonnets. I wish he'd just leave me alone. And he goes off at the end. He's like, oh, yes, I'm going to go off and tell the Duchess how amazing she is. And you can just imagine she's like, oh, no, he's here again. It's just very, very funny.
Yeah, but you do get the impression that you've come in late on a farce. It feels like we're in the second half, and this is chickens coming home to roost. The chickens are all coming home to roost at the beginning of the play, and it's like, where is this going? I don't know. This interests me. I like this structure. That it's sort of just throwing chaos at us immediately. Cardinal and the Lords getting this sort of back and forth, and it's like you get the impression everyone really likes to tell the Cardinal what the Cardinal wants to hear. It's like it's competition from the Lords of saying, "Oh, you're so right all the time, aren't you?" Possibly, Erin.
Wait, so does that mean the earlier when the guy was talking to the Cardinal and he was saying, well, she may be chaste, but she's locked herself up in the room. How hard could that be? Is he actually kind of goading the Cardinal on? Is he kind of feeding the Cardinal a reason to continue going and pursuing her? Because to your point that everybody wants to tell this guy what he wants to hear. Everybody's kind of feeding his ego and his view of things. I don't know. It was a way to play it.
Yeah, well, yes, there is this question of, because it feels like they're leading up. We will test how, and he goes, we don't need to test her. She is obviously but the test narrative is strong in the early modern period, and so that may become part of the plot. But then, frankly, after 2 scenes, I've no idea where the plot wants to go, and I'm hoping that it just does something random instead, because that's quite interesting. Other thoughts? Lactantio's sort of dealing with his with this cardinal, with his uncle. I feel like he's he comes in with props. Feels
and makes a speech about I don't know how men can spend their lives pursuing women. Oh.
By the way, I'm pregnant. Yes.
It's just so weird because like the stage directions say enter Aurelia dressed as a gentleman, but it doesn't say enter. I mean, it doesn't say anything about the stage directions. Don't tell us anything on the page, so it's just weird. I'm feeling a little lost.
Yeah, well, but then maybe that's to give the reader the surprise that you would have in the theatre, because of course, boy actor playing a page is just as plausible as boy actor playing a lady. Sarah.
I mean, also you have said this before a lot, Rob. Quite often with Middleton, you get the plot, and then you get the explanation for the plot like later on. So maybe that's what's going to happen.
Yeah, I think this is all very deliberate, and it's a really interesting effect that he's sort of going for, which is that you just get thrown into the action, and then you just have to sort of cope. And there's something exciting about that, so long as you don't lose the audience along the way. And I don't think you would. I don't think in performance you would lose the audience at this point. I think it's just as us as readers, it's harder to unpack. Aaron.
Yeah, I was reading, honestly, I was reading the page thing as kind of like a joke that then just becomes useful. It's like, I don't know, to me the page is kind of the same level as like, the girl in the coffee shop, right? It's just you're watching, in a modern film you'd be watching someone going about his day, and then he has this random, you've seen him with the one girl, now he flirts with everyone else. And then, when he has that one interaction, that becomes somebody that the writer can pull out later for another twist or a turn later on. So I just saw that she was a joke, but it's going to be a useful character to have lying around in the background to complicate things as we go forward. But it is just funny to have him making this huge speech, and then she goes, "You got me pregnant." Just that, it's a great punchline to the long speech he just made.
Okay, let's move further into the act. Act 1, Scene 3. Enter Duchess. We've heard a lot about above, and Celia.
What a contented rest rewards my mind for faithfulness. I give it constancy, and it returns me peace. How happily might woman live, methinks, confined within the knowledge of one husband. What comes of more, rather proclaims desire, prince of affections, than religious love, brings frailty and our weakness into question. Mongst our male enemies, makes widows' tears rather the cup of laughter than of pity. What credit can our sorrows have with men, when in some months' space they turn light again, feast, dance, and go in colors? If my vow were yet to make, I would not sleep without it, or make a faith as perfect to myself in resolution as a vow would come to, and do as much right so to constancy as strictness could require. For 'tis our goodness and not our strength that does it. I am armed now against all deserts in man, be it valor, wisdom, courtesy, comeliness, nay, truth itself, which seldom keeps me company. I commend the virtues highly, keeps him company. I commend the virtues highly, as I do an instrument when the case hangs by the wall. But man himself never comes near my heart.
Enter the Lord Cardinal.
The blessing of perfection is to your thoughts, lady, for I'm resolved they are good ones.
Honor of greatness, friend to my vow, and father to my fame, welcome as peace to temples.
I bring war.
How, sir?
A harder fight. If now you conquer, you crown my praises double.
What's your aim, sir?
To astonish sin and all her tempting evils, and make your goodness shine more glorious when your fair noble vow showed you the way to excellence in virtue, to keep back the fears that might discourage you at first, pitying your strength. It showed you not the worst. 'Tis not enough for tapers to burn bright, but to be seen, so to lend others light, yet not impair themselves, their flame as pure as when it shined in secret. So to abide temptations is the soul's flame truly tried. Ambition, but a virtuous one, I would have nothing want to your perfection.
Is there a doubt found yet? Is it so hard for woman to recover with all diligence and a true fasting faith from sensual pleasure? What many of her sex has so long lost? Can you believe that any sight of man, held he the worth of millions in one spirit, had power to alter me?
No, there's my hope, my credit, and my triumph.
I'll no more. Keep strictly private, since the glory on it is but a virtue question. I'll come forth and show myself to all. The world shall witness that, like the sun, my constancy can look on earth's corruptions and shine clear itself.
Hold conquest now, and I have all my wishes.
And cornets play. And a shout within. Huzzah!
The meaning of that sudden shout, my lord.
Signor Andrugio, general of the field, successful in his fortunes, is arrived and met by all the gallant hopes of Milan, welcomed with laurel wreaths and hymns of praises. Vouchsafe but you to give him the first grace, madam, of your so long hid presence. He has then all honours that can bless victorious man.
You shall prevail, grave sir.
Enter Andrugio, attended with the nobility and state, like a victor. Music plays, and there is a song sung by Discuss.
Another song. Laurel is a victory too. I give it you, I give it you. Thy name with praise, thy brow with bays. We circle round. All men rejoice with cheerful voice to see thee like a conqueror crowned.
And Cupid descends and sings this. Cupid currently muted.
Muted, there you go. I am a little conqueror too, for views of bay. There's arms of cross and there's my due. I give the flaming heart its ought my crest, and by the mother's side the sighing breast. It is not prowess in you, fair beauties, if I command love, 'tis your duties.
And Cupid ascends again. During these songs, Andrugio peruses a letter delivered to him by Lord, and then closes with this song below.
Welcome, welcome, son of fame, honor, triumph in thy name. La, la.
And, yes, this random interlude ends. Everybody exits in state, apart from the various interlocutors now.
Alas, poor gentleman, I brought him news that like a cloud spread over all his glories, when he missed her, whom his eye greedily sought for. His welcome seemed so poor, he took no joy in it, but when he found her by her father forced to the old governor's love, and kept so strictly a coldness struck his heart. There is no state so firmly happy, but feels envy's might. I know that Cintio, nephew to the Cardinal, hates him as deeply as a rich man death. And yet his welcome shew as fair and friendly as his that wore this truest love to him, when in his wishes he could drink his blood and make his heart the sweetness of his food.
Exit First Lord.
Madam, madam.
Beshrew thy heart. Dost thou not see me busy? You show your manners.
In the name of goodness, what ails my lady?
I confess I'm mortal. There's no defending on it. 'Tis cruel flattery to make a lady believe other ways. Is not this flesh? Can you drive heat from fire? So may you love from this. For love and death are brothers in this kingdom. Only death comes by the mother's side, and that's the surest. That general is a wondrous fortunate, has won another field since, and a victory that credit all the rest. He may more boast on it than of 1,000 conquests. I am lost, utterly lost. Where are my women now? Alas, what helps in them? What strength have they? I'll go to a weak guard when I call them, in rescuing me. They'd be themselves overcome. When I, that proofest war, am overthrown, what hopes in them then, that never stirred from home? My faith is gone forever. My reputation with the Cardinal, my fame, my praise, my liberty, my peace, changed for a restless passion. Oh, hard spite to lose my 7 years' victory at one sight.
And exit Duchess. Okay, we'll start with the easier part of this scene, which is the not unpredictable event of the Duchess watching this parade occur. We've had this recently. Didn't we have almost exactly the same thing, but in a slightly different direction? Oh look, there's a woman looking at a procession going on. Except a procession with descending cupids. Where the hell? Who organised that? How does that work within the world of the play? I mean, I'm all for it because I thought it was amusing, but what is the context for that happening? How does that work, Sarah?
I have no idea, but I'm pretty sure the context is we hired all these Cupid costumes for Women Beware Women, and now we need to use them.
Yeah, or a court mask or similar. Yeah, it does feel like that. You know, there's some overlap in some of the dramaturgy here. So yeah, all of that plot line was perfectly straightforward. Cardinal, Duchess, oh look out, you know, test. Oh look, and she immediately falls in love with this guy. Okay, First Lord. What was that about? First Lord, what did you say, Lynn?
I think because there's a stage direction about the Andrugio looks at a letter. I think the First Lord is the one who delivered the letter, and the Lord knew the contents. And the contents are that the woman that Andrugio was interested in, Aurelia, is being forced to marry the old governor by her father. So he's not going to get to marry his love, Aurelia. And that makes him sad.
Yeah.
And he also mentions, and I know Lactantio also hates not the governor, both of them, and Andrugio. So yeah, I don't know how the First Lord knew the contents of the letter, but that was the general was mentioned in the first scene between Aurelia and Lactantio. So like, my rival. He's like, no, I don't love him anymore.
So it wasn't. I didn't feel that was set up well enough. I mean, I did vaguely get what that was saying by the end of it. I was sort of going, but yeah, is this the best way of delivering this information? Is it set up enough earlier on? Could we do that differently? Because one direction of travel is straightforward. The other direction of travel was slightly confusing. Though I do like the complexity of these love rhombuses that we are getting here. I'm not going to call them love triangles. They're some other shape. Sarah.
I mean, is that not? Is it just not a question of the visuals? So like, it would be a lot less confusing if the Lord gives the letter to Andrugio during the song, then they have time to kind of do a bit of mime while the song's going on, and Andrugio can read that and go, what? And then show it to the First Lord, and the First Lord can read it and be like, oh, no, you poor dude. I mean, that would sort it out, wouldn't it?
No, because the problem isn't connecting that Andrugio isn't very happy and that there's a letter telling him some bad news. The problem is connecting Andrugio with Aurelia and with the earlier stuff, because I don't think it's very... they don't say her name at all in that speech.
No.
I don't feel that that's actually explaining very clearly what's going on there. You can explain that he's a bit sad about something, that someone's doing the thing, but if you've not been paying full attention to everything,
Yeah, if you don't know who the governor is,
if you
just
General,
I mean, the information is there,
Mm.
Middleton. Stop doing this. It's not that he hasn't done the work; he just hasn't quite dotted the I's and crossed the T's, and that slightly annoys me because it means we have to go back and really make sure that's clear. And breathe. Okay. Act 1, Scene 4. There's still more. There's still more act. Start acting. Act 1, Scene 4. Enter Dondolo and the page with a shirt.
I prithee, Dondolo, take this shirt and air it a little against my master's rises. I'd rather do anything than do it, faith.
Oh, monstrous, horrible, terrible, intolerable. Are not you big enough to air a shirt? Wear a smock now, you licorice page. You'd be hang here, you'd be part from it. If thou dost not prove as errant as a smell smock, as the town affords, in a term time, I'll lose my judgment in wenching.
Here, Dondolo, prithee, take it.
It's no more but up and rider than you then. All my generation were beadles and officers. And do you think I am so easily entreated? You shall find a harder piece of work, boy, than you imagine, to get anything from my hands. I will not disingrate so much from the nature of my kindred. You must bribe me one way or other. If you look to have anything done, or else you may do it yourself. 'Twas just my father's humour when he bore office. You know, my nine page. The song. I must either have the song you sung to my master last night when he went to bed, or I'll not do a stitch of service for you, from one week's end to the other. As I am a gentleman, and you shall blush, cloaks make clean spurs, nay, put up straight boots. Although in a tugging you chance to fall and haze the breaking of your little buttocks. I'll take no more pity of your marrow bones than a butcher's dog of a rump of beef. Nay, ache me, ache thee. If you will ease the melancholy of my mind with singing, I will deliver you from the calamity of boots hauling.
Alas, you know I cannot sing.
Take heed. You may speak at such an hour that your voice may be clean taken away from you. I have known many a good gentlewoman say so much as you say now, and have presently gone to bed and lay speechless. 'Tis no good to jest, so old Chaucer was wont to say, that broad famous English poet. Cannot you sing, say you? Oh, that a boy should so keep cup with his mother and be given to dissembling.
Faith to your knowledge in it, it ill may seem well, but as I hope in comforts, I've no skill.
A box of skill, give me plain simple cunning. Why should not singing be as well got without skill as the getting of children? You shall have the errant's fool do as much there as the wisest coxcomb of them all. Let them have all the help of doctors put to them, both the directions of the physicians and the erections of the apothecaries. You shall have a plain, hobnailed country fellow marrying some dairy wench, tumble out of 2 a year and sometimes 3, by a lady as the crop falls out, and your nice plain seeking gentlefolks, some 1 in 9 years, and hardly then a whole one, as it should be. The wanting of me so a pocket, so something, or losses a member on him, or quill spoils it. Come, will you sing, that I may warm the shirt by this light? He shall put it on cold for me else.
A song or two I learnt with hearing gentlewomen practice themselves.
Come, you are you are modest now. 'Tis pity that thou wert bred to be thrust through a pair of canyons, and would have made a pretty foolish waiting woman. But for one thing, wilt thou sing?
As well as I can do, Dondolo.
Give me the shirt then. I'll warm it as well as I can too. Why, look, you horse and coxcomb, this is a smock.
No, 'tis my master's shirt.
Why then, 'tis true too. Who knows not that? Why, 'tis the fashion, fool. All you young gallants here of late wear smocks, those without beards especially.
Why, what's the reason, sir?
Marry, very great reason in it. A young gallant lying abed with his wench. If the constable should chance come up and search, being both in smocks, they'll be taken for sisters, and I hope a constable dare no further go. As for the knowing of their heads, well, that's easy enough and too. But I know many young gentlemen wear longer hair than their mistresses.
'Tis a hot world the whilst.
Nay, that's most certain, and a most witty age for a bald one. For all the languages, you have many daughters so well brought up. They speak French naturally at 15, and they are turned to the Spanish and Italian half a year after.
That's like learning the grammar first and the accidents after. They go backwards so.
The pitiful Italian, last no wit boy, has had a tutor. He'd have taught thee that. Come, that I may be gone, boy.
And music.
Cupid is Venus' only joy, but he's a wanton boy, a very, very wanton boy. He shoots at ladies' naked breasts. He is the cause of most men's crests. I mean upon the forehead, invisible but horrid. Of the short velvet mask he was a deviser, that wives may kiss, the husbands ne'er the wiser. 'Twas he first thought upon the way to keep a lady's lips in play.
Oh, rich, ravishing, rare, and enticing. Well, go thy ways for a sweet in a breasted page, as ever lay at his mistress' feet in a turkle bed.
You'll hie you in straight, Dondolo.
Exit page.
I'll not miss you. This smocktified shirt, or a shirted smock, I will go toast. Let me see what's o'clock. I must to the castle straight to see his love, either by hook or crook. My master Storming sent me last night, but I'll be gone this morning.
And exit Dondolo. And okay, two immediate things appear here. One is it's probably the way you tell them, but matters more here than the actual content of the text. Lots of sexual innuendos, never-ending series of innuendos about various things. Because the Duchess exited in the previous scene and enters in the next scene. So I'm thinking this is Kingsmen starting in the Blackfriars, then Kingsmen adding scene for when you do it outdoors, is when you don't have act breaks. So, yeah, this feels very much like padding. There's some good bits in the padding, but there's an awful lot of stuff that is the padding around the good bits. There are some good jokes in there, and there's some nice turns of phrase, but there's a lot of stuff that goes absolutely nowhere there. Alan?
Yeah, I mean, it's got the feeling almost of a pre-existing routine that, we need a front of tabs number for the to cover the dress change or the scene change or whatever. You do that shtick. You've done it before 1,000 times. Just get on there and do it.
Yeah, again, they don't really have that kind of thing. So, I mean, it's written for the logic of the page. So there is a tension here in this scene about who the page is, in terms of what she's doing there. So it's clearly written within the context of the play. The song might be entirely detachable and might come from somewhere else, as songs often do. But the scene itself, and again, Dondolo might do something later on, so it might not be he's just there to do clown stuff. This may have a structural use of introducing him as a character, but in terms of, it's clearly giving the clown something to do. And again, as I said earlier, it's probably the way he told it that carried a lot of that. Any additional thoughts or praise? I mean, I've been a little damning of this, of going, here's some stuff. Some of it's fine. But apart from doing a clown workshop, I'd be sitting here going, can I remove most of this from the play? Probably, yes. Aaron?
Well, I got the same sense as Alan, that some of this had kind of a vaudeville flavor of like, all right, you're the guy who doesn't want to do his job, try to talk him into doing it. There's something about that seems like it's kind of a known setup or a known structure. I did like the twist of, wait a minute, this is a woman's shirt. Oh yeah, sometimes I wear a woman's shirt in case I'm caught in bed with one. Like it's this idea that like the woman is, I don't know, I like the way it's getting they keep kind of doing that turn. It seems like the show is less about, is this person lying, and more about what kind of lie do you think this is? Do you think they're lying about, like when he goes on about my father was a beetle in this, it's like, all right, do you think he's lying about what his father did or that he had a dad? Like which one do you think is gonna turn out to be the truth? And I think that kind of informs earlier where, when we were talking about how we tied the governor to Aurelia, the first time you heard her talking about it, you assumed it was maybe a flirtation, maybe she's just trying to tease Lactantio a little bit, and then it turns out the thing she said had this grain of truth in it. So I think it's fitting the theme. Like everything you're hearing, you start to go, all right, they're dissembling somehow. They're telling you a half truth or something. I'm starting to see everything anyone says that way and be suspicious of all of them.
Yes, it's this question about, who is the page? I mean, who was she before she became a page? Presumably, she's not a servant or serving class, because she clearly doesn't seem to know how to do anything. And so that's interesting about what's going on in that scene, about, why is basically just going, you can do this for me, can't you?
Well, I'll just say she's also pregnant.
Yes,
she's constant. She's tired. They're playing this like she's tired. She is genuinely tired and genuinely wants to go rest, and is doing work of a different kind. But she has to cover by pretending to be lazy and pretending, etc.
And leaning into the servant shtick that we have in so many other plays of just lazy servants sitting around doing nothing. Okay, let us move on then into Act 2. Act 2, Scene 1. Enter Duchess and Celia.
Pick out the lightest colors can be got. The youthfulest dressings. Tawny is too sad. I am not 30 yet. I have wronged my time to go so long in black like a petitioner. See that the powder that I use about me be rich in cassia.
Here's a sudden change.
Oh, I'm undone in faith. Stay, art thou certain Lactantio, nephew to the Cardinal, was present in the late entertainment of the general?
Upon my reputation with your excellence, these eyes beheld him. He came foremost, madam. 'Twas he, in black and yellow.
Nay, 'tis no matter, either for himself or for the affection of his colours. So you be sure he was there.
As sure as I can discern man from man, madam.
Exit Celia.
It suffices. Oh, an ill cause had any need of many helps, much art and many friends. I and those mighty, or else it sets in shame. A faith once lost requires great cunning ere it be entertained into the breast of a belief again. There's no condition so unfortunate or miserable to any creature given as hers that breaks in vow she breaks with heaven.
Enter Lord Cardinal.
In grace of health and a redoubled courage, chastity's great soldier. What, so sad, madam? The memory of her 7 years deceased lord springs yet into her eyes, as fresh and full as at the 7th hour after his departure. What a perpetual fountain is her virtue! Too much to afflict yourself with ancient sorrow is not so strictly for your strength required, for vow is charge enough. Believe me 'tis, madam. You need no weightier task.
Religious sir, you heard the last words of my dying lord.
Which I shall ne'er forget.
May I entreat your goodness but to speak him over to me, as near as memory can befriend your utterance, that I may think a while I stand in presence of my departing husband.
What's your meaning, this most virtuous madam?
'Tis a courtesy I stand in need of, sir, as this time specially urge it no further yet. As it proves to me, you shall hear from me. Only I deserve it effectually from you, sir. That's my request.
I wonder. Yet I'll spare to question further. You shall have your desire.
I thank you, sir. A blessing come along with it.
You see, my lords, what all earth's glory is, rightly defined in me, uncertain breath. A dream of 80 years to the long sleeper, to most not half the time. Beware ambition. Heaven is not reached with pride, but with submission. And you, Lord Cardinal, labour to perfect good purposes begun. Be what you seem, steadfast and uncorrupt. Your actions noble, your goodness simple, without gain or art, and not in vesture holier than in heart. But 'tis a pain, more than the pangs of death, to think that we must part, fellows of life. Thou richness of joy, kind and dear princess, death had no sting but for our separation. 'Twill come more calm than aught an evening's peace that brings on rest to labours. Thou art so precious, I should depart in everlasting envy unto the man that ever should enjoy thee. Oh, a new torment strikes his force into me when I but think on it. I am racked and torn. Pity me in thy virtues.
My loved lord, let your confirmed opinion of my life, my love, my faithful vow seal an assurance of quiet to your spirit, that no forgetfulness can cast a sleep so deadly on my senses to draw my affections to a second liking.
Has ever been the promise and the spring of my great love to thee. For once to marry is honourable in a woman, and ignorance stands for a virtue, coming new and fresh. But second marriage shows desire in flesh, thence lust and heat and common custom grows. She's part virgin, who but one man knows. I here expect a work of thy great faith. At my last passing I can crave no more, and with thy vow I rest myself forever. My soul and it shall fly to heaven together. Seal to my spirit that quiet satisfaction, and I go hence in peace.
Then here I vow, never.
Why, madam?
I can go no further.
What? Have you forgot your vow?
I have, too certainly.
Your vow? That cannot be. It follows now, just where I left.
My frailty gets before it. Nothing prevails but ill.
What ail you, madam?
Sir, I am in love.
Oh, all ye powers of chastity, look to this woman. Let her not faint now. For honour of yourselves, if she be lost, I know not where to seek my hope in woman. Madam, oh, madam!
My desires are sickened beyond recovery of good counsel, sir.
What mischief owes her malice to the sex, to work this spiteful ill? Better the man had never known creation, than to live the unlucky ruin of so fair a temple. Yet think upon your vow, revive in faith, those are eternal things. What, are all pleasures, flatteries of men, and follies upon earth, to your most excellent goodness? Oh, she's dead, stark cold to any virtuous claim within her. What it now is heat, is sins. I approved your constancy for this, called your faith noble, writ volumes of your victories and virtues. I've undone my judgment, lost my praises, blemished the truth of my opinion. Give me the man, that I may pour him out to all contempt and curses.
The man's innocent, full of desert and grace. His name, Lactantio.
Now?
Your nephew.
My nephew?
Beshrew the sight of him. He lives not, sir, that could have conquered me, himself excepted.
He that I love so dearly, does he wear such killing poison in his eye to sanctity? He's undone himself forever by it, has lost a friend of me and made a more sure one. Farewell, all natural pity, though my affection could hardly spare him from my sight an hour. I'll lose him now eternally and strive to live without him. He shall straight to Rome.
Not if you love my health or life, my lord.
This day he shall set forth.
Dispatch me, rather.
I'll send him far enough.
Send me to death first.
No basilisk that strikes dead pure affection with venomous eye lives under my protection.
Exit Cardinal.
Now my conditions are worse than ever 'twas yet. My cunning takes not with him. He has broke through the net that with all art was set for him, and left the snare here herself entangled with her own toils. Oh, what are we poor souls when our dissembling fails us? Surely creatures as full of want as any nation can be, that scarce have food to keep her bare life about 'em. Had this but took effect, what a fair way had I made for my love to the general, and cut all suspect, all reprehension. My hopes are killed in the bosom, blossom.
And then exit Duchess, end scene. So, again, this is the thing of only explaining the thing after the thing has happened. It's like, and if you're not paying attention to what people's names are, you are in trouble in this play, because she's not saying to the Cardinal, I'm in love with the guy I'm in love with. She's saying Lactantio again, and all roads lead to Lactantio, and Cardinal is not having a good day. That's not what he wants to hear, because he's already uncovered Lactantio's duplicity once, and he is not happy with his nephew. And the Duchess at the end of the scene goes, oh God, I've made it worse by trying to be clever. And all bets are up in the air. But that's genuinely confusing if you don't follow the names of who people are. And even, the general, who does have a name, is probably easier to identify as general, because generals it's just easier to follow. So yeah. Anyone who was confused there, you have good cause. The other thing is, of course, this is doing a really interesting job of work. It's like the Cardinal and her. Do they do this often? Is this what they do on Christmas? They cosplay her dead husband, and go through their final goodbye speeches, and then they get to the bit at the end and go, no, I can't finish it. I can't say the last bit, and it's like, and then the moment breaks, and so that's. Which I've just slightly adjusted to the script so it's clearer what's actually going on there. That's a really weird thing to be doing and interesting, and it gives this scene whole series of interesting directions as to how you play it. Lynn, then Sarah.
Okay, well, let's go. First, I'm going to go back in the scene that, like, let's talk through, my husband's deathbed interaction with me, just to I need to be reminded of that. And he's like, okay, yeah, that's a little weird, and it's a little artificial. It's like basically the audience needs to know what happened, so that's the pretext for that. But that's just so gross. It's like, I'm dying, but I can't stand the idea of you sleeping with another man. Promise me you'll never remarry. That's just so gross.
But not uncommon. But not uncommon. I mean, it's the plot line of several things.
Yeah. I thought at the beginning of the play, she made this vow on her own volition. She married for love. Her husband died young. I'm not going to remarry. A matter of honor that I'm not that I'm going to die a widow. I thought when it was her idea, it was like, but no, he sort of coerced her into it. Okay. And then I am so confused. Okay, I thought she was in love with the general. I thought Andrugio caught her eye. Okay. And then she tells the Cardinal, oh, I'm in love with your nephew. And I thought, oh, I guess she's in love with him. I was mistaken. Um, and then it's like, no, oh shoot, my trick didn't work. Like, I don't understand what she expected to happen by telling the cardinal she was in love with his nephew instead of telling him the truth. How is that supposed to work?
Kyle, did you have a response to that before I go to Sarah?
Oh, yeah, it's not really a response directly to that. So you can go to Sarah.
I'll go to Sarah.
I have a response, which wasn't what I was going to say, but it's because he's the cardinal's nephew, I think. She's like, well, I'll tell him that the guy I'm in love with is his nephew, and then he won't mind because he's his nephew. Whereas if it was just some other random dude, he'd be really upset. But then she's like, at the end, she's like, oh no, all my dissemblings like deserted me because actually this did not work. If anything, he's more upset that it's his nephew. But I don't think she was thinking that it was going to play out that way.
Yeah, I think it's the thing is she wants to soften him gently of just going, hey, marriage as a concept is cool. Yeah, and then she can swap who the person she's marrying later.
Yeah. What I was going to say was in relation to what you were saying, Rob, about how weird it is. It is really weird, and what Lynn was saying, icky. But it's also, I think there's a scope for this to be really hilarious. Partly because of that thing that, you were talking about, the fact that, a lot of women, were put in this position where they were kind of coerced by their husbands, given especially that a lot of women married men who were much older than they were, this kind of coercion did go on. So it's kind of cocking a snook at that, which I really like, that sort of cultural thing that happened. And also, I just think, yes, it's weird and it's icky, but like if the Duchess kind of knows that it's weird and icky, and she's like, oh yeah, this is what he likes to do. He likes to kind of, because he's romanticized my widowhood and he's always hassling me with sonnets. And I mean, he's clearly got the hots for her if he wasn't so repressed and like so kind of, like, yeah. But and she's like, okay, right, we just need to do this all again then. So I'll butter him up. We'll do his favorite hobby, reenacting this scene. And he has just been so enthusiastic about her and like so obsessed with her chasteness in her widowhood. And she's like, yeah, doobie doo. And then when just before we finish the scene, I just need to tell you, actually that's not happening anymore, and I'm in love with your nephew. And then his reaction, I just think if he is played as this really kind of buffoonish, preposterous character, this could be hilarious, this scene. And it could totally undercut the sort of quite nasty power dynamic that is obviously, there.
Well, I think the scene can be funny. I do wonder though, actually, if it's a sort of an emotional exorcism from her point of view. That actually the scene can be played very, very seriously, as of her trying to decide which way she's actually going to go and trying to figure out where she's at. So there may be other angles in that, in terms of whether it's full on all the way through comedy, or whether it is actually that there is a moment there to be had out of the oddness of the scene. She's effectively going through the death of her husband, ex-husband. So I think to do it too lightly there is I mean, it's been 7 years, but even so. Kyle.
Yeah, I love what you guys are just saying too, because I felt like I thought that she was asking for that, not just to be kind of manipulative of him, but also maybe so that she would not be in love, like so that hearing it again might help her decide not, or somehow get away from the love that she's feeling. So what I was going to say is I just really like this play so far, because there seems to be this increasing complexity of people's motives, and of also the play's kind of take on sexuality. Because at first I was feeling like, oh, it's just so, it's fetishizing chastity, virginity and all that sort of stuff, and chaste women, and it's just being, a very Puritan like. But the start of the play, which really confused me, was when the two characters, Lactantio and now Aurelia, they seemed so intimate in an equal way, and their intimacy was really nice. In fact, he says something like he's going to marry her, and they're kind of playful. And then we start to get him as kind of a playboy in some ways, whereas it seemed like real love. So I don't know. There's just like some complexity. It's confusing for me because I can't kind of pin down anybody or their motives or their behaviors. But I really like it so far because it's just so hard to pin down.
And the thing is, apart from possibly the clown slightly overstaying his welcome, it's all been quite fun. The scenes are interesting. I'm not sitting here going, I'm often going, I'm not quite sure why this is happening, but it's interesting that it is. And hopefully that's going to power us through. I'm going to run the next two scenes into each other. Oh no, maybe I won't. I'll see. Act 2, Scene 2. Enter Lord Cardinal.
Let me think on it. Set holy anger by a while. Is time allowed for natural argument? Is she that loves my nephew? She that loves first. What cause have I to lay a blame on him then? He's in no fault in this. Say 'twas his fortune at the free entertainment of the general, amongst others of the deserts and hopes of Milan, to come into her sight. Where's the offence yet? What sin was that in him? And sight and presence are free to public view. She might as well have fixed her heart's love then upon some other. A wood 'twill have lighted anywhere there. Yet I may err to wish it, since it appears the hand of heaven that only picked him out to reward virtue in him by this fortune. And through affection I'm half conquered now. I love his good as dearly as her vow. Yet there my credit lives in works and praises. I never found a harder fight within me, since zeal first taught me war. Say, I should labour to quench this love, and so quench life and all, as by all likelihood it would prove her death. For it must needs be granted, she affects him as dearly as the power of love can force. Since her vow awes her not, that was her saint. What right could that be to religion, to be her end, and disposes my kinsman? No, I will bear in pity to her heart, the rest commend to fortune and my art.
And exit Lord Cardinal. So, it looks like Lord Cardinal can be talked around, though there's a sense of there is a self-interest element here to the way he's framing that. So yeah, he's not just fixated on things. He has other angles. Erin.
Well, I'm glad you brought that up because I was going to mention it in the last discussion. His attitude has always been self-interested. He said, I picked my nephew as my heir because he's so chaste and noble and upright. I have nothing to worry about. He cannot threaten my reputation or my position. Or his earlier statement was, I picked this guy because it brings less drama. So the only thing that really sets him off thus far has been when it turns out the guy he picked as his heir is now going to compete with him for the woman he wants. And now he's like, oh, well, now I've got to get rid of him and send him to Rome. But he's kind of, I think he's playing to his type. He has been self-interested the entire time. He wants his world ordered, structured, and he wants to control it. And the only thing that threatened that so far was the Duchess saying she wanted the nephew instead of him.
Yes, there is definitely I mean, who would have thought a cardinal would be controlling? I can't imagine this is a as a thing. So yeah, I mean, other thoughts. Otherwise, we'll move on into the next scene because it was just he came back on stage and did a soliloquy. You could almost argue it was just a continuation of the previous scene. Act 2, Scene 3. I see no one waving. And her father, Governor Aurelia, and Andrugio, disguised.
I like him passing well.
He's a tall fella.
A couple of tall wits. I have seen some service, sir.
Nay, so it seems by thy discourse, good fellow.
Good fellow calls me thief familiarly. I could show many marks of resolution, but modesty could wish him rather hidden. I fetched home 23 wounds together in one set battle, where I was defeated at the same time of the third part of my nose. But meeting with a skillful surgeon took order of my snuffling.
And a nose well healed is counted a good cure in these days. It saves many a man's honesty, which else is quickly drawn into suspicion. This night shall bring you acquainted with your charge. In the meantime, you and your valor are welcome. Would we had more store of you, although they come with fewer marks about 'em.
So wish I, sir.
And exeunt father and governor.
I was about to call her, and she stays of her own gift, as if she knew my mind. Certain she knows me not. Not possible.
What if I left my token and my letter with this strange fellow, so to be conveyed without suspicion to Lactantio's servant? And not so. I'll trust no freshman with such secrets. His ignorance may mistake and give to one that may belong to the general. For I know he sets some spies about me, but all he gets shall not be worth his pains. I would Lactantio would seek some means to free me from this place. 'Tis imprisonment enough to be a maid, but to be mewed up too, that case is hard, as if a toy were kept by a double guard.
Away she steals again, not minding me. 'Twas not at me she offered. Hark you, gentlewoman.
With me, sir?
I could call you by your name, but gentle's the best attribute to woman.
Andrugio! Oh, as welcome to my lips as morning dew to roses, my first love.
Why, have you more then?
What a word was there? More than thyself, what woman could desire if reason had a part of her creation? For loving you, you see, sir, I'm a prisoner. There's all the cause they have against me, sir. A happy persecution I so count on't. If anything be done to me for your sake, 'tis pleasing to me.
Are you not abused either through force or by your own consent? Hold you your honor perfect and unstained? Are you the same still that my departure, my honest thoughts maintained you to my heart?
The same, most just.
Swear it.
By my hope of fruitfulness, love, and agreement, the 3 joys of marriage.
I am confirmed, and in requital on't, ere long expect your freedom.
Oh, you flatter me. It is a wrong to make a wretch too happy so suddenly upon affliction. Beshrew me if I not be sick upon't. 'Tis like a surfeit after a great feast. My freedom, said you?
Dost overcome you so?
Oh, temptation never overcame a sinner more pleasingly than this sweet news my heart. His secret joy can witness. I am proud on't.
Violence I will not use. I come a friend. 'Twere madness to force that which wit can end.
Most virtuously delivered.
Thou art in raptures.
My love, my love.
Most virtuously delivered. Spoke like the sister of a Puritan midwife. Will you embrace the means that I have thought on, with all the speed you can?
Oh, sir, anything. You cannot name it too dangerous or too homely.
Aye, you overact your happiness. You drive slight things to wonders.
Oh, blame not me not, sir. You know not my affection.
Will you hear me? There are a sect of pilfering juggling people, the vulgar tongue called gypsies.
True, the same, sir. I saw the like this morning. Say no more, sir. I apprehend you fully.
What, you do not?
No? Hark you, sir.
Now, by this light 'tis true. Sure, if you prove as quick as your conceit, you'll be an excellent breeder.
I should do reason by the mother's side, sir, if fortune do her part in a good getter.
That's not to do now, sweet. The man stands near thee.
Oh, may he stand most fortunately, sir, whom her kind goodness has appointed for me.
A while I'll take my leave to avoid suspicion.
I do commend your course. Good sir, forget me not.
All comfort sooner.
Liberty is sweet, sir.
I know there's nothing sweeter next to love, but health itself, which is the Prince of Life.
Your knowledge raise you, sir.
Farewell, till evening.
And exit Andrugio.
And after that, farewell, sweet sir, forever. A good, kind gentleman to serve our turn with, but not for lasting. I have chose a stuff will wear out 2 of him, and one finer too. I like not him that has 2 mistresses, war and his sweetheart. He can ne'er please both. The war's a soaker. She's no friend to us. Turns a man home sometimes to his mistress some 40 ounces poorer than he went. All his discourse out of the book of surgery, cerecloth and salve, and lies you all in tents like your camp victuallers. Not upon't. I smile to think how I have fitted him with an office. His love takes pains to bring our loves together, much like your man that labours to get treasure, to keep his wife high for another's pleasure.
And exit Aurelia. And as ever, these characters twist in the wind as we find other layers and thoughts about what's going on there. Aurelia's, yeah. I'm liking Aurelia much more. We haven't seen as much of Aurelia as I'd like. But yeah, this is a really interesting little back and forth. We have the setup of the Andrugio as in disguise, and the fascinating little asides going on throughout this, and then setting up some probably quite problematic cultural appropriation that's going to be coming up later in the play. So already we've had gypsies described as basically tricksters and hustlers and people who are going to steal your money and your goods. But we shall see where that goes. We have been able to massage out similar problems in the past, but we will see whether we can in this one. Sarah.
Given that all the nobles in this play are tricksters and hucksters, maybe the gypsies will turn out to be like, just the really honest people with integrity. That would be fun.
Yeah. Oh, I think, to be fair, with the way this play twists and turns, all bets are off as to the moral probity or the morality that they are doing here, because Aurelia is quite explicit here about actually what she thinks of people, and what she wants out of life. I'll go to Lynn, then I'll come to Sarah.
Yeah, it's hard to see how this is going to sort itself out into an ending that's going to please a modern audience, because I don't have pairs to pair off evenly. Usually,
but it's often the pairing off that's the problem.
It is, because usually in comedy the women get what they want, the ingenues get what they want, and the men are the ones that realize the error of the ways or change their minds or whatever. So in that sort of classic plot, the Duchess would get the general, and Aurelia would get her Lactantio, but Lactantio has another girl. So what happens to this page that he's been fooling around with? Do we just discard her because she's lower class and it doesn't matter? That's gonna feel really weird. So I just wonder how it's gonna work out so that we're not angry at Thomas Middleton.
I'm sure it'll be fine. The baby will turn out to be the Cardinals, and it'll all be fine. So I don't know. And as ever with comedies, it is the ending that is the problem. And I'm sure there will be problems as we go further into the text. We've got potentially quite a big one to navigate coming up. Whereas actually we were sort of the complexity of what the characters are doing have so far been very pleasing and very interesting, even if sometimes they sort of throw you for a bit of a loop. Sarah.
Yeah, what I'm finding particularly pleasing is the fact that Aurelia is a noble woman, and is conniving and finagling, and the stakes are not that high. It's just brilliant because I can't think of a play where, you know, I can think of female characters who dissemble and who are like, you know, tricksy and devious, but they tend to be kind of lower class. And I can think of noble women characters who are either kind of very witty, but still very honest and virtuous. And I can think of noble women who are scheming and devious, but they are always like bad women and they're usually in tragedies and they get their comeuppance. I mean, maybe she will, maybe I'm speaking too soon, but this just seems to me to be a woman who's like, yeah, no, I'm locked up here. I need to do something to get myself out of this prison. Oh, here's my ex-lover. I'm just going to pretend that I'm still in love with him so that he'll rescue me. You know, that's by early modern standards, that's a really, really dodgy, evil thing for a woman to do to a man, especially a noble woman to a noble woman, but to a nobleman. And yet this is not, it's the stakes don't seem to be that high. She's just like, oh yeah, I could use this to my advantage. And it's all quite cheerful and funny. And that's so rare.
I was mentioning earlier how, you know, you need to pay attention to the names. In a sense, this is another typically Middleton play, in the sense that actually you only need to know 2 names in the entire play. You need to know Lactantio's name. You don't need to know Andrugio's name for most plays. Just the general. That's fine. And you need to know Aurelia. Everybody else is governor, father, cardinal. Even the page doesn't have a name. You know. And this is typical Middleton. And actually, it is one of those things that actually names are sometimes utterly bamboozling. If you know where someone fits within a strata, you know exactly who a cardinal is, who a duke, you know, as long as you have one of each, it's actually quite an efficient way of knowing who the hell the characters are. You just need to know who Aurelia and Lactantio are, and so that slightly washes over my objection earlier about you need to know who certain people are. Actually, if you lay this out well, you don't. They are figures a lot of the time, but they're very, very well sketched figures. I mean, you know, I've met the Cardinal many, many times, not necessarily as a Cardinal, but yeah, I've met many of these people before, and I feel like I've met these people. They don't feel like ciphers, despite the fact most of them don't have names. They actually feel like real people. Okay, into final thoughts. We've done the first 2 acts. It's not a desperately long play. Always good if it is a comedy. We have flagged up some problems that are probably going to turn up in the next 3 acts. And there may be a question of what to do with that, especially with a comedy, is you don't want problematic things necessarily to overwhelm a comedy, because you'd like the audience to laugh. But so far, got to be careful about the clarification of what the text is doing. Just because Middleton thought it was a great idea to confuse us doesn't automatically mean it is a good idea. But so far, this has been a wild ride. So that's always nice. So I'll go to Aaron first. Any final thoughts?
I'm enjoying it. I think I like the twists and the turns. I'm trying really hard not to Google Lactantio because you keep hinting there's a lot to. I don't want to spoil it, but I have had my own suspicions. I mean, so far, again, I think I'm gonna have to just mark myself up a fan of Middleton. So far, I've just found his stuff very accessible, very, very modern in sensibility, and I feel same as you said. I feel like I know these people. I feel like I could see these people on a modern serialized, you know, cable drama. So. I'm liking it. That's my only thought.
Yeah, and again, it's a relatively small cast play. This is also what I like, is that, you know, there aren't that many people to throw into the mix. Connor, any final thoughts?
Yeah, I like it. Middleton has a nice pace to his stuff as well. So it's not dragging along. It's moving along nicely. You're kind of following the characters, and I think really good place with it at the moment. I'm enjoying it.
Kyle, any final thoughts?
Yeah, I just I also really like it, and I was a bit confused. It's sort of hard to get the hang of how he's constructing characters. But one thing I really like is it seems like I was thinking like Sarah was that there was like an unconscious motive in the Cardinal, but it seems like the unconscious or the subconscious kind of construction of the of characters isn't here. Their complexity is just like created by acting for other people rather than like them not knowing themselves, which I think is really interesting. But hard to know because we can't see the end of this. But yeah, I'm really liking it.
Yes, yes, that's the question. Does Aurelia's stuff just come out of the blue, or is it just that we just had another scene with Aurelia and went, aha? Alan, any final thoughts?
Yeah, I mean, it's an interesting one. I must admit, I do get very frustrated with Middleton's acts of violence against conventional English syntax on occasion, where he does seem to bugger the world order as far as he can get away with it. And also this habit of sort of dropping stuff in, which only gets explained 3, 4, 5 pages later as being a plot point, because you're going, what the hell just happened there? And it takes a while before the explanations come out.
But it's clearly a structural device that he's doing, and it clearly has an effect. And I'm really curious to see what that effect has on an audience. I think this isn't the best forum to really assess its function because, we're not seeing it as well because a lot of this is partly tied to the visual. Sarah, any final thoughts?
Oh, I've said quite a lot already. No, I'm just I really like it. I find it quite refreshing. I'm loving all the dubious morality and the twisting and turning that everyone's doing. It's very cynical. I like the way Middleton plays with, these early modern tropes. And I'm looking forward to seeing what happens.
Lynn, any final thoughts?
Well, I'm actually pretty frustrated by the complexity and the difficulty I'm having following what's going on. So I'm not enjoying it as much as other people are, because it's just sort of aggravating me that I can't figure out what people are doing. But then I change. And I think Sarah was right when she talked about playing that scene where the Duchess and the Cardinal reenact her husband's deathbed scene. I mean, you just really need to lean into the goofiness of it, make it ridiculous and satirical rather than serious. And I think if you could set that mood from the beginning, that this is like a crazy bedroom farce, and everything's going to be fine, then the complexity and the confusingness will be easier to stomach. That it's like, it's crazy, I can't follow what's going on, but I'm having a good time. And right now, I'm not having that good a time because I find I feel more sort of frustrated than anything else. But we'll see.
Rachel, any final thoughts?
I was feeling like the opening few scenes were kind of rambly and unstructured, but I realize I'm hooked. I want to know. It's not just because I was reading Paige and Andrugio, but why the pregnant Paige? That was a bit of a shock. And why was Andrugio disguised? And what's his backstory? I think so. The main plot around the widow Duchess is obviously following some conventions. We'll see how they play out. But it's the other plotting parts that I think also hooked me in. I think it's fascinating. I'm intrigued.
Yeah, I mean, structurally, we've had a lot of there haven't had that many really long scenes. We've had some relatively long scenes. There's certainly a few long speeches. Big decisions need to be made about the clown. We'll know more about Dondolo later on as to how much of that needs to be trimmed out, just simply because the clown isn't, the clown may be not very important and could be entirely excisable. And then also the big question about what do you do with the Cupid sequence? Because all that you need at that point is he comes in, she sees him, and he reads a letter. You don't actually have to have random Cupid sequence, and or you could have something different, similarly spectacular, but something perhaps that will land in a slightly more straightforward way. Because I say, where the hell is this? I mean, maybe the Cupid's not even in the play, the world of the play. Maybe it's literally Cupid just turns up. I mean, we haven't discussed that possibility, that maybe Cupid turns up and just shoots her, and actually the other stuff is real, because I just don't understand how the Cupid can be winched down for a street celebration. It's so weird. So maybe Cupid is real. Discuss, which I'm cool with. I'm cool with that, but I do want to understand why those things happen before I put it on stage, because at the moment I'm not quite sure what that scene is precisely doing at that point. But yeah, not a massive cast, and I think it remains about this kind of size cast. There's some doubling you might do with some of the minor servants, or remove some of the lords. It does say 2 or 3 lords. I think the third lord is just if you've got a work experience in that day. Otherwise, you just give that to one of the other lords. So yeah, it's got some interesting questions that we will resolve next time, when it probably gets slightly more problematic. But till that time, if you've been enjoying listening to us reading, you can always join us. There's sign-up forms. You can join us when we're in session. We read several times a week. Lots of sessions available. You can pop in for one. You can pop in for all. You can even just lurk in the background, just writing things in the chat and being terribly, terribly rude about what we're trying to do. These all options available. You go to beyondshakespeare.org and look for the sign-up sheets that I generally kept updated, except when occasionally I forget. So all that remains is thank all the wonderful readers for all their wonderful reading. Thank you very much, everyone, and goodbye. Hazard the breaking of your little buttocks.